All right, y'all. I know. We have made it to the end of season 3, the final episode, maybe, of LaRae Infinity Let's Talk podcast, season 3, the ladies behind the mic. And a real quick recap from this season. We've had podcasters on, we've had mothers, we've had teen mothers, we've had people that are CEOs and millionaires, we've had change makers, dream builders, facilitators of everything you can think of, all women, all powerful, all amazing. I want to say thank you to everybody that has been listening to the last 3 seasons of LaRae Infinity Let's Talk, who encouraged me to follow my podcasting solo journey of Let's Talk on the side, and who encouraged me to bring in men to the conversation about women and Let's Talk to Men about it. Altogether, I have interviewed almost 150 people about women, us normalizing and celebrating women and our goals and our journeys. Oh, and let's not forget about Let's Talk special editions on Saturday, where we just talk to somebody through their career, women that are experts in their fields. Again, thank you, all the people in the world that are listening. Please keep listening, send encouragement, plug in to my guests, because they are all business owners, entrepreneurs, bosses, and they have goods and services, and I've personally vetted them. These are good people. So make sure that you are appreciating them through their words and through actionable things, such as patronizing their businesses. Warning, in this show, there is cursing, adult conversation, and explicit language.
Hello, my name is Dr. Holly, and I am ageless. Today, I had an amazing amount of sleep, and you are listening to LaRae Infinity Let's Talk podcast season 3.
Season 3, episode 12, y'all, and my name's LaGina, the host.
Let's talk.
You know, let's start with how I met you and why I appreciate you. So I met you on a rando Wednesday, and you pop into BGV, is our affectionate name, but Black Girl Ventures CEO Shelly Bell. Shout out to Shelly Bell. Shout out. And Dr. Holly, you came in. It was light. It was joy. But it wasn't just like, you know how some people you see and you're like, oh, they're too happy, I can't trust it. Like, you're too happy all the time. Your happy was like authentic in this way of like, I'm happy, but like there's a whole story. And I just appreciated you from the beginning. I was like, hey, can you be on the podcast? You were like, why are you asking? Just tell me when. And you were like, I'm here for you. Don't even know you past Eve, right? Like instead of Adam, because people say Adam all the time. But but I just appreciate you. Again, I'm a fan. Follow you on Instagram. Know what you're doing in the community, in our entrepreneurial circles, what you're doing on panel discussions, and who you're bringing to the table. And so I appreciate you taking time to record.
First of all, thank you for allowing me to come on. You're right. We met at BGV Workspace. And when you were like, yo, I need people to come on my podcast, I felt like I had to just show up and show out. That is one platform that just has allowed me to support other Black women without it feeling catty or competitive, right? Because we're all individually doing so much. And when we, show up and say like, hey, we need XYZ, it gives us that space to either refer or just step into the charge and to call ourselves.
We're here for Let's Talk, season 3, the ladies behind the mic. And one thing that's really cool about this podcast is that we are actually celebrating a woman's journey, and not the journey that was laid out for us, but we're taking the story that we're supposed to tell, throwing it out the window and just being like, this is who I am. Love me. We're just going to start off really simple, or not, just depending on who you are. Who are you? Where did you grow up? What's your family dynamics like when you were growing up?
Well, who am I? I'm really the modern Renaissance woman. I ain't gonna hold you. I'm like you said, I'm everywhere, and I am. I don't believe that you have to just be in a box or just have this one profession. if I can conceive it, I'm waking up and I'm going to try to go and achieve it. Period. I have had so many professions and so many careers, and people are like, oh my gosh, you doing this, you doing that. Yeah, because I want to do it. You know, I have never shared this with anybody, but low key, I'm a comedian. That's for you. That's for you and your podcast and your listeners. And I have been holding on to that because I'm trying to figure out how I want to shift it and birth it. You know, I'll always be a therapist. Like, I'll always be a Black woman, right? Because therapy is something that's near and dear to me. It is, you know, a blessing to be able to share and just be chosen to be a part of someone's vulnerability and growth journey. But yeah, I'm an aspiring comedian. But let me kind of dial back. I'll just say I'm more so the person that just want to tell jokes. I don't think I'll be a full-out comedian. And the difference is this. There's a tutor and there's a teacher. The teacher goes to school, gets the degree, gets the certifications. They have a classroom. They teaching. But the tutor is like, I don't want a classroom. I just want to go in, help a couple kids, bring them up to speed, and then they out. So for me, it's like, yeah, I don't want to be like, you know, the next Tiffany Haddish. I just want to go tell a couple of jokes at some places and be like, all right, I did that. So as far as my family dynamic, both of my parents were teenage parents. My mom and my father are a year apart. My father was heavily involved in my life, although my mother and my father were not traditionally married. My mother, you know, she had other children, but we all have, you know, different fathers, and she did the best that she could with what she had. She taught me a lot, but my grandmother mainly raised me because my mom was, you know, so young, and, you know, she continued to have children. And then once I was like bullied in high school, and I located to Rogers Park, which is the north side of Chicago. And my father and I, our relationship kind of changed, not because anything, you know, personally, but I just was not close in proximity. Then I went away to college, and just things really just started to catapult. But my parents are both amazing. I am glad that they are my parents. They taught me some great things, and the things that I learned from them that they didn't know, I'm learning now to make sure that I don't repeat those patterns with my children.
So you said high school and you were bullied. What did your bullying look like? What was it wrapped up around?
You know, I was listening to your episode with Kimberly, and it just that's first of all, hands down, my favorite episode of your podcast, because I resonate so much with her story. So the bullying was me saying something to a young lady, and she took it back to the person that I said something about, but it wasn't what I said. And so this young lady wanted to fight me. And when I tell you, she came with like her sister and like a gang of girls, and just, it wasn't even like, let me just fight you one-on-one over something you thought I said. It wasn't a conversation. It was just like every single day, leaving notes at my locker, waiting on me outside of my classroom, assigning in her crew who was going to follow me and stalk me. And then just one day, I'm trying to get on the bus to go home, and everybody's outside like, yeah, we waiting to jump you. And I'm like, okay. And back then, this was in the 90s. You know, my mom did what she could, but the principal, the institution, they didn't really think that bullying was a thing. So my mom was like, I'm not doing this. You know, we're just going to put you into another high school. So I moved around a lot as a kid, and even as an adult, I still move around, but not as much. And so that's what bullying, you know, looked like.
That weak ass telephone game that done it so accurately. That's what I think about. Like, I think about being in elementary school, you know, before, you know, there are a whole bunch of other things. Like, I'm a tomboy. Now you can't call little girls tomboys because it's a thing and blah, blah, blah. I understand. Like, as we evolve as humans, shit changes. But when I was in elementary and junior high and we played telephone, I'd be like, what the fuck? That is not what was said at the beginning. It goes from the grass is green to the sky is orange. And you're like, okay. And so I think I internalized that as a child. And as I became an adult, when somebody be like, so-and-so said something about you, or I would always, when I say something, because I'm a purity shit talker, but my shit is usually the truth. And I have no problem talking to you about it. Like, whether you get it first or last, I'm not talking about you. We can talk anytime. And it's not even like it is now. Like, we can go. I'm just like, we can talk about it anytime. So I feel you on that. That telephone game is weak.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned tomboy because that's exactly what the conversation was. I had asked the young, seriously,
Wow.
I had asked the young lady, I was like, so and so reminds me of a tomboy, because we were talking about girly stuff like makeup and stuff like that, and she mentioned this young lady's name, and I was like, she doesn't seem like somebody who would be into that. She seems like a tomboy. She literally carried it back as if I was calling the girl gay. The girl got offended, and then it turned into just out this girl. Yes, the whole thing, bully, and that was just not the conversation.
It's so weird. Like, I have a on the side episode about coded language, and one thing that I took away from like prepping for that episode is the fact that it depends where your origin of a word comes from as to how it matters to you, right? Like, some people, you know, I called my nephew. What did I call him the other day? I said, "You are so cute." And he goes, "I'm not cute. I'm handsome." He said, "Girls are cute." And I said, "Well, there's no gender on those two words." And I said, "You're very cute and handsome." And he just kind of looked at me like, okay, I mean, I could rock with that. I get you, but I'm still handsome. And it's all about the origin of the word. But that's so crazy. So tomboy got you to the point where you had to like dip, because no,
I mean, it would have been different if she would approach me one on one and we would have had a fight. You know what I mean? She pushed me in the hallway and then me and her just square up.
Yeah.
But to jump me as if me and you could not have handled this one on one, you're a coward.
It's just too much. But that's what I'm saying. Like, after it gets to that point, it's like, okay, never mind. Like, I don't have time. Square up, I'm all down for it. Because I think that's like old schoolyard. That is not bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, you get your time, you get your licks, or you miss.
Yes. Yes, that's it. I wouldn't have handled if you got offended over something that you thought I said and you wanted to square up. Okay, fine. But to turn it into you jumping me as if you couldn't fight me by yourself, that's the whole lot. And I don't got that to do. You want to be a coward, be it on your time in high school. I'm here to get my education enrolled. But
And then what happened after high school? Like, what was your track after high school?
So high school was not a glass there because I had to really transition around people I didn't grow up with in grade school and middle school. So not only was I the new kid, I had to try to find myself. So high school was full of ups and downs, and then some home life, you know, issues and things like that, you know, with my mom, because again, my grandmother raised me. But now I'm 16, I'm in high school, I'm growing into a young adult and living, you know, with the mom, and just a lot of just so many changes. And so I was like, you know what? I'm out of here. And my academic advisor at the time, he said to me, listen, your GPA is too low. You're not going to college. You might as well just stay here and apply to like a community college, because you're just not going to get into a 4-year institution. And I looked at him, and one thing a white man can't do is tell me what I can't do. Right. And so I said, okay. I failed at high school so bad that my senior year, that last semester, I had to go to night school in order for me to graduate on time with my class. I worked during the day at a white women's tennis store. Oh my God. Just tennis apparel, country music, and just white women coming in plaid. Okay. But anyway, and so I graduated with like literally a 1.9 GPA. I applied to several institutions, PWIs, of course, didn't get in, but I didn't care. I was taking my shot with my 1.9. And then my grandmother was like, no, you're going to go to a black college. I didn't want to go to the black college that she wanted me to go to, which is Talladega in Alabama.
Come on, Talladega.
Yeah, right. I didn't want to go there, but I applied to Grambling State University and Southern University in Louisiana, both in Louisiana, one south, one north. They both accepted me, but Grambling was like, you can come right now in August. And Southern was like, you waited too late. You can start in January. And I was like, no, I'm out of here. I'm getting the hell out of Illinois. I'm out. And so with that 1.9, I sit here today to be an example to say, like, again, you want to do that shit, you can do it. And you can't let somebody tell you what you can't do, because you'll start to believe that narrative. Mm-hmm. Right. And so, yeah, 1.9 and a whole PhD later.
Wow. Yeah. I just, again, and I know what it is, but HBCUs, right? Shout out to HBCUs.
Yes.
My best friend, Destiny, she's in season 1. She went to Grambling, so she played basketball there.
Fam.
Yep. And I wouldn't say that like my experience at my HBCU was all like roses and glitter. Like I had
HBCU?
Stillman College in Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Shout outs,
SC baby,
come through.
Yes, proud HBCU grad.
Yes,
but I don't think the road of any college, like college, is meant to be college. And I talk about this a lot in season 3 because I have this duality because my background is in higher education, student affairs, my master's. But I also do understand it's not for everybody. But I will say that people that HBCUs give people chances that may not actually, let's not play that would not get a chance at PWIs and other things. Yeah. So I love that aspect. So thank you for sharing that with your 1.9. Hey.
Yes, I'm prime example. And you're right. Them HBCU college days, they were not roses and rainbows and Skittles. Honey, when people talk about ramen noodles, like it's really not a game. You really ate ramen noodles, right? However, the experience that I had at an all-Black institution, HBCU, I would never trade that. Because I know people, Black and brown, women and men, who have chosen to go to PWIs, whether it's on a scholarship, academically, or sports-wise, that go through a lot of racism and microaggressions that we just don't experience at HBCU.
It's horrible. And even when you talk about just me as like a military brat, I found my true north because I remember one time sitting on I was walking on campus and I stopped, and I have these moments in my life where I'm like, just stop. If my friends are around, I'm like, Dr. Holly, think about this. This is the only time in our lives we're going to be right here and you can breathe. And I had one of those moments for myself, and I was like, look at all these Black people on campus, and they're all here to be educated. And the gamut is like the poorest of the poor Black kid to the richest of the rich Black kid. And the thing that we have in common that keeps us all safe is that we were like all there at an HBCU, all being able to be Black.
Yes.
And that's one thing I do remember as I'm talking to you being on campus is that we all had different socioeconomic and came from different places, but we were just Black. Like, it wasn't like, you ain't got $10. It was just like, we going to the calf.
Yes, we're going to the calf. We're going to eat this nasty food. We're going to do this up. And the support that was there. No, you didn't gel with everybody Black that was there, but you definitely had that love and support. Like, you may not have liked Tammy that you went to class with, but say y'all met up in like Chicago somewhere, you'd be like, oh shit, Tammy, we went to and again, that love from that campus, that experience, the years that you were there just extends beyond that. There are people I went to Grambling with to this day that if we saw each other on the street, it would be nothing because we're Gram fam. And I think HBCUs continues to breed that love, that support, that nurturing, right, amongst our community. And again, I really would not exchange that for nothing in the world.
I heard you say at the beginning of what you were saying, you kind of brushed over it a little bit, but you said, I've had a lot of careers. So you were talking about high school, then we moved into college, and, lack of a better way of putting it, this trash GPA, but an HBCU that lets you in and gives you a chance. And all of these careers, what are these careers?
Oh my God. So I started my side hustle at the age of 11, and it just really kind of went from there. At 13, I got my first tax-paying job. I worked in the X-ray room at the VA Medical Center, where I carried X-rays to the X-ray room for the doctors to basically look at them so they can tell their clients the results. From there, I worked at like fast food restaurants, Burger King, and then when I moved south, I worked at Captain D's. For those of you who know about Captain D's, I worked at Ryan's, which is a buffet. When I lived in Louisiana, I worked at Chinese, buffets and things like that. But once I got into college, kind of had some education under my belt, I became a substitute teacher. From there, I became a literacy specialist. And then that catapulted my love for education, like even farther. So I was like, wow, I really like this, but I don't like the population. Started working and teaching adults. So I was a GED instructor. Then I became a college professor. I have been executive director of nonprofits, several nonprofits. But I've always had like, again, side hustles where I've helped people get their grassroots nonprofit started. I've done resume writing. Way before even, just, being in transition into being a therapist. So that's kind of really like an overview or gambit of like from fast food to anything you kind of name in between to where I am today. If I was going to do a summer job making the minimum wage at that time for like kids who can get a job at 13, I wanted to be among professionals because at the same time, I'm like, I already know that my grandmother was grooming me to go to college. So for me, it's like, what do I want? What do I really want to be? As a kid, I felt like at one time I wanted to be a writer like Judy Blume because I love Judy Blume.
Yes.
And Beverly Cleary books. Like I collect them.
Really?
And then, yes, I have a collection, like all of the originals. Yes, it is not a game. It is not a game because that was like my escape. When I was a kid, I just always like really jumped in those books or Choose Your Adventures. Those were like my two favorite books. And so I wanted to own funeral homes. I didn't want to work the bodies, but I wanted to be a funeral home owner. I wanted to be a dentist. I wanted to be like all these crazy things. And I was like, you know what? Let me start getting around professionals so I can get an idea of what I wanted to be. But it didn't matter because my grandma was like, no, this is what you're going to do. But I never stopped writing. I never stopped reading. I never stopped learning, no matter what career or profession I chose. Like you said, education is key, and it's just something that's just always been instilled in a part of me.
So you also mentioned being a comedian, and you said it, and it was like one of those moments on the podcast where I always get to go, this is a LaRae Infinity Let's Talk podcast exclusive. Dr. Holly just told us she's a comedian. First time ever hearing that, ladies and gentlemen. But no, for real, like when you said it, I was like, how is that a secret? How do you envision being like the tutor, not the teacher, but like your ideal comedic thing that you want to do? What is it? Like, what is it? Like Showtime at the Apollo?
Okay, so let me just say, yes, I want to tell jokes. I don't think I want to be a comedian, but I know what you're saying though. Comedians tell jokes, but I just want to be a joke teller. I don't want to be like, doing these night gigs on the road on a tour bus. I don't want to take it that far. I have about 7 jokes saved up. I'm going to write 3 more before I actually go out and try out to a local comedy club here in Philly. So I try them out on my husband and he helps me like craft them. And yes, this is exclusive to you. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you, not because you're just a bomb.com, but it's like, if you want to do something, you got to tell somebody so you can be held accountable. And I'm telling you, yes, not only are you going to hold me accountable, but all of your hundreds and thousands of listeners throughout the country are going to be like, okay, the therapist to joke teller. So anyway, I want to try out and then do this stand up, this local, comedian club. And I don't know, I wouldn't mind like being on Netflix, not necessarily having my own special, but like just some random as she's a therapist and then she's telling jokes. I do want to, I don't know if you ever saw it, but Cedric the Entertainer, his last stand-up comedy special, he had an HBCU band come out on the stage. Okay. Yo, I want Grambling to come out and you're going to come out with your triangle. Yes. And give me that triangle. But yes, I want them to be on stage and give me a nice grand opening. It don't have to be the whole band, but a couple of girls out there, Major Reds doing their thing and some of the front line of the band.
All of it.
Yes.
Yes. Between Cedric and Beyonce, like, right? And of course, Nick Cannon and Drumline. Or was it him?
Yes.
All that. Okay. So you were talking about book authors and your comedy and everything else, but what's something that's really quirky about you that people typically don't get just right off the jump?
That I like coding. I like doing things on a computer. I can like geek out. When you mentioned sci-fi, I was like, okay. But I'm not that type of like, like quirky type. I really like coding, building websites, looking behind the scenes and things like that.
Yeah. I love that. You're a low-key coder, comedian, X-ray walking person. Okay, Dr. Holly, but I heard you mention a husband, And earlier when we were doing pre-show stuff, you said kids. So how'd you meet your husband? How'd you get children? Rather than the typical, we had sex, but.
So once I graduated from Grambling, a lot of us migrated up to DC who were not from the DMV area. I moved to DC, and I was just like trying to find myself, trying to figure out what I do professionally and personally. It was just a lot. And relationship was just horrible. And I was just like, okay, if I'm attracting a lot of fuckboys, then something's up. I think I'm the common denominator. Seriously. And I'll be the first to admit it, that I know it was me. So I was like, you know what? Let me step back. Let me identify and really get clear on my purpose, who I am, and my relationship with God. And so I started going to the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge and knowing more about my identity and who I am as a Black woman, right? And just understanding more about how to live my life in God's purpose. And that's where I met my husband. And we've been together, it'll be 15 years in July.
Yes.
Yep. We had our son a year after we got married. So he's 14 and my daughter is 12.
I love that. I love that. So being a wife and a mother, highly educated, 3 degrees.
4
degrees. Whoops. 4
a
degrees.
bachelor's, 2 masters, and a doctorate.
All of that, people. 4. With being a mother and a wife, how do you hold on to your definition of femininity?
Ooh, that's a very, very good question, because me and my husband, we talk about this a lot. Because there are some times where I feel like I could be more vulnerable, and I think that comes with a level of femininity that I'm still working on. My level, believe it or not, my level of femininity is something that I learned from my grandmother and my mother. My grandmother was the first entrepreneur that I ever met, so she was always like hustling, right? And my mom was a single parent who worked a lot and believed in the grind. So femininity was, you make sure that you know how to balance a checkbook at 11. I knew how to drive at 11. You knew how to take care of a household, and this is what this looks like. So if you do get married and for whatever reason your husband dies or he leave you not somewhere stranded, stuck, ass out, and fucked up somewhere, right? And so that was femininity that I learned, right? But I wasn't taught, I would say, a level of vulnerability that, again, I'm still working on to this day with my therapist on, just how to be. You know what I mean? I think a level of femininity includes also, allowing, your mate, to be, I'll just say it for me, my husband, to be his masculine self, right? And knowing that I don't have to always step in because that's something that I was raised or, kind of like taught to be and to do. I don't always have to just take it all. And it doesn't come from like the strong women narrative. It's not that. It's just the fact like, nope, I got it. Nope, I got it. Because that's what I saw my mom and my grandmother do. Like, it wasn't a question. It was just handled. Right? So if I had to define my femininity, it is to just own up to the parts of me that still need to grow as a woman.
Yeah, I like that. And I like how you said that you were taught by women womanly things that may not have been typically handed out or shelled out as womanly things, but is like this whole survival of the fittest and independent woman narrative comes in. I mean, that's part of the narrative, is like literally being independent. And I say it all the time. Some people receive it well, some don't, but I really think the beauty of a really solid relationship is choosing to be with somebody and not having to be with them or feeling like you need to be with them to, have completion, or you need somebody to do this for you all the time, like those codependency relationships. Because I always look at the relationships in my life that are very, very functional and very progressive. and they're two people that have chosen to be together. And there's this wanting to be together and wanting to learn from each other and wanting to be partners with versus the need. Like, so yeah, that's good. And I love that you said that you're a therapist with a therapist, you know.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you have to be. I think people get lost in the fact that, you know, what therapists do and what they represent, but we're human, we're people too, right? We have flaws, we have dents and scratches and some shit we need to iron and work out. So yeah, I would be remiss to not have a therapist and be working on myself while I'm trying to help others heal and work on themselves.
You are listening to the LaRae Infinity Let's Talk podcast. On July 17th, the WOMI app has paired together with the US Space to bring Melanin Minds Mental Health Conference and partnering with our very own All Real Radio right here in Houston, Texas. This hybrid holistic health conference is all about amplifying and bringing to light melanin mental health professionals and celebrating and uplifting our mental health in the melanin communities. For more information, visit melaninminds.org and make sure to follow Melanin Minds on Instagram at _Melanin Minds. That's _MELANINMINDS. Back to the listen. Enjoy.
What is something that you have fabulously failed at?
So I don't believe in the term failure.
Okay.
So it's, for me, it's not, I like to take the word and reframe it to say, what is something that I had to let go, learn a lesson from, or it just wasn't meant to be. Right. Okay. I've had an ectopic pregnancy where I've lost a child. Right. And we know how it can be for Black women to be, you know, infertile and not have children. I felt like at some point that it was a quote unquote fail, but it just wasn't meant for that child to come forth at that time.
Can you explain you said an ectopic?
Yeah. So basically is when the baby, or, you know, as it starts to form, is growing in one of your fallopian tubes.
Okay. And
so it has to be removed because, of course, you know, babies don't grow in fallopian tubes when you're pregnant. So that's what it was. I failed at high school with the 1.9. Who the hell graduates with a 1.9? But again, these are things that if they didn't happen, that's why I don't call them failures. It wouldn't have me where I'm at right now. In my, you know what I'm saying, in my journey, my walk, my life, where I am. I don't even have regrets. It's just like, would I have made better choices? Yeah, but I knew what I knew then. I don't know. I didn't know what I know now then. You know what I mean? So it's just like, nah, I don't regret. I don't feel like I failed at anything. Because for me, if, like I said, if I wake up and I have it as a thought that I want to try, see, do, taste, feel, I'm going after it. Because I don't know. I could die tonight at 8:00 in my sleep. I'd have lived life as much as I can, financially, spiritually, mentally, to my fullest. Where it doesn't compromise, you know, my beliefs, my values, my family, my close friends, or just who I am as a person. But if I'm waking up, I'm doing it, because I don't know my expiration date. So why would I not go after trying to tell jokes on the stage and get my Netflix special with my Grambling Frontline band? Why would I not? You know what I mean? Why would I not? Why would I not go after it?
Why would you not?
As Black women, we already got the world that's telling us we ain't shit. Then imposter syndrome creeping. So it's like, we, if nobody else, should look at the word failure and reframe it so that we can become our biggest cheerleaders and get back up and keep doing the shit.
Yep. Imposter syndrome. My whole imposter syndrome, it stays like, I'm like, go away. It's like always at my door, even sometimes when I know exactly what I'm doing. Like, I could turn into a bumbling fool because imposter syndrome's like, who are you? How do you know this? It's horrible, right? Yeah. Speaking of knowing what you're doing, the lady behind the mic, like, we know what we're doing. What are some things you do to get ready to be behind the mic, transfer your energy, be this out there CEO, book writing panel person that you are?
Like, if sleeping could be an actual job that I can get paid for, oh my God. I do not play with my sleep. Oh my God. It is not a game. So I make sure that I get my rest. Like, it's is something I just don't compromise on. So when I finally learned and how to get that pattern with my children, and now that they're older, I'm like, yo, sleep is just not even an option, something I don't compromise on. So I make sure that I get plenty of rest. My second best thing that I do is I drink water. Water is my jam. I love my water. And I would say the third thing is check-ins. So check-ins is basically me having, whether they're mindless or mindful conversations with people that I love. So they could be my husband, me and him just shooting the breeze. It could be my children or some of my therapist besties in my circle, my success circle. But I'm big on connections, but in an ambivert way. I'm not an extrovert or introvert, but I do believe in having specific connections that are, again, targeted and are helpful.
What's something when you think that just stands out that has impacted you most in your life?
I think being a wife and a mom has really just impacted me the most, because it has made me shape and cultivate into a person that I didn't even knew existed. Like some girls, when they're little, they dream of getting married, having a picket fence in the house, the 2.5 kids, and that was not my story at all. My grandmother had been married several times, and she was like, don't ever get married. My mom was married once, and he was, physically abusive, but she was never married outside of that. So it wasn't even something that I saw. My dad was married, but even his marriage turned to shit. So it was not something that I saw. Nobody around me had a healthy marriage. So for me, it wasn't even on my trajectory to get married, have the house, have the children, anything like that. I'm like, shit, I'm chilling. I'm just going to travel the world, make impact the best way that I can and keep it moving. And so when the Most High showed up and was like, nope, here's how you're going to make impact. And it literally, again, cultivated and shaped me to be a whole nother person that I didn't even know existed, or even that I had within me. My son, he's 14. He's on the spectrum. He's high functioning. That required a whole nother level of parenting and advocating, right? And standing up into his intellectual disability with being autistic. And I'm like, wow, am I really cut for this? Is this something that I can really do? And just being in relationship with somebody that is long lasting, is forever, is marriage. Like, this is something I can do after coming off of, seeing again, your mother and your grandmother not having that. So am I really cut to be and to do that? What does that look like for me? And I had to, again, go to therapy and work on myself so that I could show up and step into that role that the Most High basically placed into my life. So I think being a wife and a mother, it just really changed so much to who I am as a person. I knew that the life that I was living was just not going to be where I wanted to end up. And so I was like, since I know I'm the common denominator, let me sit back. I was celibate for a whole year, just like literally working on myself, doing the work. And then again, the husband came, and then the children came. And I was just like, okay, this was supposed to be like me really working on myself, which I did, and me getting closer with the Most High, which I did. And then he was just like, okay, boop, boop, here you go. And I'm like, okay, all right, I'm going to show up. I don't know how I'm going to show up with all my still little broken pieces in my baggage, but we going to make it happen. And again, I'm here, but you're right. It just never was on the initial purview.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell y'all now, I was celibate for a year and I got close to God in that year. So that's not my path either, y'all. Don't worry about it. I'm like, well, damn. Okay, no, that's not me. Okay, so speaking of a year, over a year ago now, 400 plus days. What were you doing? COVID had just hit the nation. There was a lot going on. George Floyd, Breonna, Ahmaud. I mean, I'm not the list, right?
Right.
And then the awakening and everything else. What were you doing? What were you going through over a year ago this time?
So December of 2019, I started launching my group as an entrepreneurial mindset coach. And we would meet once a month, and I would have these dinners with 12 ladies who were either fiberpreneurs, which means they have a 9-to-5 and then they have their side business, or people who were part-time business owners but wanted to transition to entrepreneurship full-time. And I gave them accountability buddies. And again, we would have these meetings once a month. February came around. We had our last meeting. March comes. I'm planning to do like this self-care retreat for them. And then COVID hits and the world shuts down. I'm like, do I have enough tissue? That was like the first thought. Because it's not just me. It's like me, my husband, and 2 children. I looked around and see the food, because again, you're just like, I don't know what I wasn't in my normal week where I would go and get the toiletries and the groceries. So it's like, oh shit, things are just about to, kind of pause. And so it was like, I'm really going to be home. And I was like, okay, the first thing I was like, I'm going to get some sleep and I'm just going to wait this thing out, because it was only supposed to be a couple months. And then, of course, the months turned into a year and a half. But then I started to connect with BGV. And then February came, the riots. There were some here in Philly, not only because of George Floyd, but they shot and murdered someone here as well, another Black male. And I won't say that I became numb to it. It was more so me looking like, okay, as a therapist, how can I show up? Because my specific niche is working with professional Black women who experience microaggressions in the workplace. Oh. And so because of it, they may develop anxiety and or depression, and they turn to substances to cope. And so I work with them on how they can have a voice, come out of that, and not turn to some form of addiction, whether it's sex, alcohol, drugs, gambling, whatever, because they have so much anxiety or depression from all these microaggressions in their workplace. And so I was just ready to put on my glasses, like I'm here for it. Who needs to talk and process, the racial trauma that now is being televised, and you're stuck in the house and you have to see it. You have to hear it. You have to read it. Like you were just there. You couldn't even move. So it felt so uncomfortable. So imagine having that on top of your own experiences. And I was just like, only thing I could think of was how I can show up for my people. But it was just a lot to now that it just being in your face, and you just couldn't turn it off.
Damn. Yeah. No, you really, really couldn't. Toilet paper. Oh, America. I just thought, I was like, oh, you were one of them.
I had some horror stories. It was crazy because people was out here gouging prices for toilet tissue. Like, it was like, are you kidding me? Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy. So kids in the house, everything else, you're a mother, we're sheltered in place. I say air quotes because we know some people are out there in them streets. I still have high disrespect for you and tell y'all to your faces when I see you, so it's fine. But you mentioned that your son is on the spectrum. You have a daughter and a husband. How is your family moving through the world together? And how are you as a mother, effectively learning to show up for your son?
So one thing that I did or have always known with my children, and maybe this is just a therapist thing, / this is something I didn't get as a kid. And that's my big thing. Whatever I didn't get as a kid that I knew I needed, I'm making sure that I'm giving to my child. Like, for example, and I'm just going to get a little candid. My daughter, she transitioned to having her monthly. I threw her a whole monthly party for me and her, right? My daughter looked at me like, what is this? When I tell you I went all out, I got pajamas, I got the pads, I got the panties, I got candies, I got chocolates. We were watching movies, Netflix, we had the popcorn, I had candles. I mean, I got her such a huge gift box, and she was just like, what is this? I was like, okay, so maybe this was more me than you. But we sat together, and this is something that her and I always done since she was a little girl, is that every Sunday we pick a movie, we rotate, and we watch movies together. So that's me and her. Another thing that I've always known my children is, as soon as I pick them up from school, how was your day today? What was the best part about it? What sucked? Let's talk about it. Because I want them to know that, one, they can express the good and the bad. One, they can acknowledge the good and bad. And 3, don't be afraid to share it. You don't got to suffer in silence, right? And I just want to check in with you all the time. So with the pandemic, I'm checking in with them constantly, because my daughter is a social butterfly. My son, he's not an introvert, but he is his own best friend. He don't have to be socially out with a whole bunch of people. But my daughter is opposite, and it impacted them in so many different ways. Like my daughter, it was a very hard transition for her. Her grades suffered. My son, he made the D's list. He made honor roll. He was chilling. This was like up his alley. But I still continue to check in with him. And then as the spring rolled around, we would go on nature walks. Nobody could have their cell phone, and we would just continuously check in and just talk with each other. So check-ins are really huge. I know that's one of my top 3 things I told you, but I am there for my kids. I'm in a business. I'm in a room. I'm in a cell phones. I'm in the computers. Like, what's up? Like, I don't leave nothing open to chance, and I just try to be the parent to them that I would have wanted, which is kind of selfish now that I think about it, because what if they need like a whole nother parent, or for me to show up in a whole nother way? So maybe I should kind of check in with them about that. But as far as my son, though, it has definitely been a journey. When he first got diagnosed in DC, they didn't have what you call now ABA specialist. So I was his ABA specialist. I couldn't hold down a job because he was having a hard time transitioning to being in a social setting, because he started school at the age of 4. So I was just always in a classroom, always there. It got to a point where they had expelled him until I actually officially got him diagnosed. He's never been on medication, but we have been to tons of therapy. Again, working with the ABA specialist, once I advocated constantly that they get it, because he had an IEP. He still does to this day. But I'm that parent. I will show the fuck up. I'm not that one where you could just, put stuff on paper or just say something about my child, because my children are not perfect. They're great children, but I know they have hangups, but I'm going to investigate both sides. He understands what autism is, because of course he's living it, but it's not something that we stigmatize in our house. It's not something that is a limitation in our house. Whatever he's into, he feels he wants to do. Again, being a Renaissance mom, I'm like, yo, what do you want to do? We can do it. My son makes music. He is in the process of helping me build a app. And so I just include him. And when he does work for me, I pay him.
And I have theories on like autism and dyslexia. Like I really just think they're superpowers. The common way of thinking is a crux, because I have dyslexia and I see magic sometimes. I'm like, y'all don't see what I see. So I always tell people, like, it may be an intellectual thing from the standpoint of how like society has based intellect.
I like that you mentioned that, because my daughter is dyslexic. Mm-hmm. And when I tell you she is like a fucking great artist, it's
magic.
It's crazy how talented she is. And I'm just like, what can I do to like push you? Like she just wakes up and she's just, again, an artist and does her thing. And you're right. I think, I'm super blessed, because I think that dyslexia, I think autism, they are superpowers. I think that they have something wired in the brain that I may not necessarily understand, but it also gives them a level of doing things on a whole nother plane that is so creative, that is so neat and so great. And I see those powers in my children. So I agree. I think they're superpowers.
Would you rather be crazy rich, or would you rather be deeply in love? Y'all, she's grinning. She listens to the show.
I do.
You're like, I got an answer.
Yeah, I do. And you're so right. Because Kimberly responded, and I have to agree with her. I would want the money. Like, I think love is something, like she said, you're going to have your phases. Where's the honeymoon phase? And then over time, it may wean, or it gets deeper and richer, like wine or whatever, like cheese. I'm a big cheese head. So it can be funky and sharp and good as shit, right? But it's the love. So it's always going to be there and sustainable as long as the two people who are in love are working at it. But as far as finances or being crazy rich, it's so much that, like Kimberly was saying, you can do within your community, within your family, that otherwise we would not have access to. I don't want my children to have student college loan debt. So guess what I would do? Make sure that they don't have that debt, right? I would want to just contribute in a way that I know only money would be the answer or the opportunity, because as Black folks, we're already behind the 8 ball, not because of anything that we've done per se, but just how society is set up. And the only way out of that is that income equality, right? And so I think the money.
Yeah,
for sure.
We're closing with my 1212, my earth number, the money. Hey, okay. So the money, Love will be there if you find the right person and you're able to work at it. Are you sexually enlightened? What is it for you? If I say sexually enlightened, define.
Sexual enlightened. I don't know. I mean, I guess let's go back to what I just said, just being in tune with your sexuality in the sense of who you are. I'm not talking about gender wise, but what pleases you, what turns you on, what is the thing that you would consider intimate and sacred when it comes to your body, and how you please yourself or how you like to be pleased. So if I had to say that, yes, I am sexual enlightened.
Y'all see,
I know all that. Yeah, I know all that.
Y'all see, I got a sister as a lawyer. You're not going to therapy me. I'm going to ask you the question. You're going to answer the question, Dr. Holly. So yes, y'all, she came to it after defining her definition of sexually enlightened. She says that she is sexually enlightened. I was like, you're not going to give me the answer to that. I haven't answered it all season. Okay. Clearly you're sharp. But what is something that you really, really embrace about yourself?
If I'm giving a task or a charge to do something, even if I don't want to do it, I'm gonna step in and give it 110%. Because now I think as an adult, as I've aged, I realize that we're all here on an assignment, right? And so if I'm specifically given something, it's just a part of my growth. It's a part of what I'm supposed to be doing. And I will know if it's not something I'm supposed to be doing. But I think, again, just stepping into that whatever that is and giving it 100%, 110%.
What is something that you wish or you're still working on embracing about yourself?
Ooh, anger is my default emotion. And it could, yes, I can go from 0 to 100 real quick. I can. But again, that's why we have therapists. And those are things that you're still working on with experiences. Now, sometimes the anger is shifted towards, okay, it's not a good thing. But then sometimes it's like, no, I could take that anger. I could advocate. I can do these things because I'm motivated, because it's something that was, not cool. So me being angry behind it can really cause a shift and some goodness out of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. When did you identify that like your anger was that thing that you were like, I've got to embrace this to work on it? When
I got married.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because when you are responsible in a relationship or being held accountable for somebody else's feelings, how you care for them, how you love them, how you show up. And if anger is your default, you're in trouble. You got to be able to communicate as an adult with another adult. But again, if my upbringing is the default, sometimes being petty or passive aggressive, it's like, oh shit, I got to fix this. Because again, this is what I'm seeing in my household or as a kid or my family life system, right? And I'm like, okay, this doesn't work when you're actually in a marriage. So, yeah, you got to work on that.
Got to work on it. Who inspires you?
So a lot of people don't like Ayana Van Zandt, but I love her to pieces. She is like the auntie that I never ever had. She candid, she real, her life story. I just love her. I really love her to pieces, and I'm going to work with her one day. It's not that I want to, but I will. I love LaRae. She inspires me too. She inspires me in a way because she is just unapologetic of who she is, how she supports us, how she shows up creatively. And she just truly inspires me to pieces.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Issa Rae's amazing.
She is. I love. I really, really, really do. Ava DuVernay. I like her because she's just not afraid to tell a story from her lens.
So who do you hope to inspire throughout your journey?
Other Black, brown women and men. I know that I'm going to walk into this classroom at Lincoln University.
Yes.
These are up and coming, young therapists that are looking to come into the field. And I want to inspire them to know that they can be unapologetically who they are, like Issa Rae, shows up in the room, and that they can be unapologetic when it comes to serving their community. Because you can show up and be your whole self and still serve your community, and and just be the shit. And so I'm hoping to really inspire them. I hope one day my children tell me that I inspire them. I don't know, because children in that between stage and teenagers, they probably won't tell me until they're like 32.
You got it right. It's I did. You know what? No, actually, the first time I said thank you to my parents was when I got to college, and I realized how shitty parents were to kids. I didn't think it was a thing. Like, my parents were just awesome, and so I was like, oh fuck. And I called them. I was like, I was drunk too. I was like, thank you so much for being good parents. And my parents were like, you're drunk, go away. Okay, y'all. So we just did that thing. We just did it. And one thing that if you didn't learn anything else from this episode in this season 1, Dr. Holly, Professor Dr. Holly, again, shout out to Lincoln University, is that show up for your assignment. And if your assignment is life, then just show up. Showing up is some of the hardest part of doing what you're going to do. If you haven't gleaned anything from every last woman in this season, I don't know what you were missing, because the ladies behind the mic are amazing, are going to continue being amazing. Dr. Holly, okay. Y'all go get yourself 1 of 4 degrees. Y'all go get yourself 1 of 50 careers in a lifetime. And then y'all go turn around and say that you did it with a 1.9 GPA in high school.
Yes.
Yes. I thought mine was bad. And I had like a 2.5, and I was just the shit. I was like down there at the bottom of the map. But yeah, y'all, nothing is impossible. Not saying the road is easy, not saying that you're going to start and finish where you expect it to be, but everything's doable if you show up for your assignment. Dr. Holly, I appreciate you so much. I appreciate everything that you're about, and I look forward to working with you in the future in whatever we end up conspiring on randomly. Like, girl, I need you to show I'm here. Okay. Yes. That easy. And again, y'all, season 3 closer, Dr. Holly, and y'all know how this goes, is you're moving through the world, is you're understanding who you are and who you are going to be as you finally open up the book of life and read your assignment. Good luck finding your book, and good luck deciphering your assignment. Try to be authentic in who you are. Try to appreciate other people. Take a minute to look somebody in the eyes and let them know you appreciate them. And as always, tell your story. Be your own brand. Live your truth and stand in your moment.
All right, y'all. My name is Dr. Holly. I am a endless spirit, and I hope y'all understand that you have to show up and be who you are supposed to be in this moment. And that you take on that assignment with God first and foremost. You just listen to my story as I live my truth and stand in my moment on the LaRae Infinity Let's Talk podcast.
Season 3 closer, Dr. Holly. Bye. Beep. All right, Dr. Holly. She said ageless. I'm living for it. Okay, here we go. Beep. And y'all, I know y'all almost heard her. She almost said her age. And I want y'all to also remember, because I'm putting this directly in the bloopers, I want y'all to go back and listen to a lot of the episodes. And my women start off saying like, hello, everybody, or something like that. Because they all read the y'all. They all read the y'all. But when they say bye, y'all. All right, you just listened to season 3. My name's LaGina. Bye. Beep. I'm so here for it. Why, like, y'all, you know how, like, when you hear me, like, silent for a second, we know that LaGina may have not been paying attention because she was daydreaming about something that, her guests is saying. And I had this whole thing I had a whole show in my head of you coming on stage with like these really high stiletto heels on and this sharp ass blazer suit with the necklace from your book cover. Oh, that cover right behind you. And then you're like, I'm a therapist. And everybody just laughs because like it's funny. Because it's then he started telling the joke. Oh my gosh, I'm never gonna get through this interview with you because like I don't know what. I hope your therapy thing is visualization because I'm like, shit.
I love it. I